Startup is exactly like that. It's your girlfriend, right? If you don't make an attempt to start building this, you would never build this out.
Welcome to the Goela School of Finance. Today we have Mr. Ajay Lakhotia, who has a plethora of experience in the corporate world. He has been working in ICICI Bank as a top executive, board member in Yatra.com and FirstCry. He also has his own venture capitalist firm, and now he's out with his new startup for the aim of financial literacy for the young. How do they invest? What is their psychology? And what does he recommend to the new people who are starting off with stock market? This is going to be a really interesting session. Plug in and see you there. Hi Ajay, I welcome you to the House of Finance. How are you doing today?
All good. Thanks for having me here. Super excited.
Perfect. So Ajay, you've worked with multiple MNCs, you have had multiple startups and a plethora of experience. So before starting off, tell us your story. Who is Ajay and why do you do what you do?
Okay. Aditya, I love to experiment with life, right? Build an experience, a new journey every few years. I can't be doing the same thing across my life, and different people are meant to do different things. I sometimes feel that I'm always out there on a quest to do more, learn more, achieve a little more, right? Where you were a few years back, you want to be a little better than where you were.
Right.
Right. And for a change, right now, my life has come a full circle. So I started as an entrepreneur, was an investment banker, then venture capitalist for almost a decade. And now I'm back to building a new startup. I'm a tech startup founder now. And
Wow.
what I've always felt is, or I would put it this way: I've always been a strong proponent of not living a templatized tick mark life, right? जिसे कहते हैं ग्रेजुएशन हुआ, शादी की, बच्चे हुए, घर खरीदा, गाड़ी खरीद. It's good. It's a very good setup for people, right? But some of us are not cut for it. We can't do this. It feels you feel locked in all of this system. It does not feel right for you, right? And for me, I can't live a tick mark life. And that's the reason I go back building new experiences every few years, saying अब ये करके देखते हैं, मजा आएगा, right? And I love questioning the status quo. Everything that we are doing, maybe there's a better way of doing it. There's a faster and more efficient way of doing it. And when you start questioning status quo, people don't like you all the time because you are asking difficult questions. But that's who I am.
That's great. That's great. So Ajay, you said that you basically don't like to have like a template style, like a proper thing. But why so? I feel that isn't that easy? Like you know exactly what to do. You have the full path. Isn't that easy?
It is, right? So, and that's where I said it is a good setup. It helps people set the goals for them, but then there are sometimes when you say, जो सब कर रहे हैं मुझे वो नहीं करना है,
Correct.
right? Correct. What everyone is doing is probably not as exciting for you, or not exactly what you feel is the right thing to do for you. It's like one shape fit all system. Not everyone is going to fit into it. So,
Correct.
and that's the reason I would start questioning it, saying probably sahi nahi hai. There might be a different way of doing something.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Understood. So Ajay, you said that you've been a venture capitalist, right? So most of our viewers right now are very much into equities. In fact, our full channel is all about equities. So I get a lot of questions that I want to start off investing in startups. I want to go into private equity. So for a fundamentals point of view, like we have some fundamentals for equities. So can you contrast the fundamentals of investing in equities versus startups? I think that will be a great help to all the viewers.
See, I understand this. Listed companies usually are well established, right? You understand their market, you understand their growth pattern, you understand the product that they are building, right? Everything is extremely well defined. And so are the parameters on which you can ascribe a valuation to a stock, ascribe a valuation market cap to that company, to that business, right? There are very less unknowns out there. On the other side, when it comes to a startup, you're actually betting on the idea and the founder. That's it, right? Everything else is unknown. How the market would span, you don't know. What the product would look like, you have a thought right now, but it might look different after a few years, right? The business might pivot multiple times before it actually finds a strong ground to hold and grow from there. So when it comes to startups, it's usually a gut call. I think this would work out well. And then we start putting structure around it, saying, up, let's get some statistics to actually prove my gut saying this is right. Yahan jaake we should start investing. Right? So equities and startups are like dealing with a lot of known to dealing with a lot of unknowns.
Right, right, right.
And that's the reason when we say startup investments are risky, the returns are also super high. So when your bets are right, your returns are like 10x, 20x, 30x in a year.
Correct.
In equity, you would never see those kind of returns.
Right, right. Because of course, risk and reward are always little promotional. Perfect, perfect. I think that is great because a lot of young, at least investors out there, they're really into startups and they want to be there. Of course, it's very fascinating to be here, investing in startups, seeing things grow. So, I feel.
You know what I generally feel is uh, people are able to resonate with their idea and think of it like this, right? Not everyone has that ability or the time, or say their conditions don't permit them to get out of a job and go and
Right.
start, right? But if you can relate to that idea and you will say in your mind, यार अगर मैं ये job नहीं कर रहा होता तो शायद this is what I would be building, right? I have mostly seen when people are writing checks, they can resonate with the idea saying, if I was not doing something else, I would want to build this out. Even if I'm not doing it, at least let me write a check, let me be a part of this journey. That's how they start doing it.
Right, right, right.
No one is actually going and calculating ki if I put a $10 right now, it will become $50. And those calculations, I don't think so anyone is really doing out there.
Correct, correct. Because I don't think that's very much, you can say, relevant to private equity and startups. Right, right, right. So yeah, it's very different that way. So after such a vast experience, you have started up StockGro. So can you tell us more about how did this idea come into the picture and how can a regular investor or a trader benefit from this app of yours?
Okay, so think of India, right? Our country right now, it's one of the most vibrant economies globally, right? Highest working population, very high level of education. Some of the best fintech startups globally have come out of India, right? And we are much ahead of the. I look at startups globally. I see who's doing what, right? The kind of fintech platforms that we have built, we are ahead of rest of the world, right?
Wow.
We are solving payments much better, much faster than anyone else out there. But the interesting part is when it comes to looking at all these fintech investments, most of the investments are going in payment startups, PayU, Paytms, Razorpay, all of these guys, right? And then you would have seen a lot of startups which are into lending trying to solve that problem, saying there's a small part of population who get lending from NBFCs and banks. What about rest of the guys? And when I started looking at these numbers, you'd be shocked. I was fascinated when I saw less than 4% of India's population today invest in stocks or alternative assets. And it's like what do rest of the folks do? 55 million demat accounts, right? Of which say 20-30% would be duplicates. So let's say 35 million unique investors out of 1.2 billion population. क्या कर रहे हैं हम लोग? And when I started understanding why are people not investing, so when you talk to guys, they'll say, I would love to invest, but I don't understand terminologies, I don't understand jargons, I need a little more help. And that's where we said it's a very large problem to solve. It's actually a national service, right? If you help people understand and start their trading journey.
Right.
And for me, it was like, let me take a stab at it. Worst case scenario, I'll fail, but at least I'll not regret that I did not build this out when I wanted to. That's how we started this.
Right. So that is really amazing. So how can let's say retail investor, let's say I'm a 19-year-old person and I'm interested in stock markets, I want to learn more. So how can this app help me there?
So Aditya, today all the conversations about market is offline, right?
Correct.
क्या होता है? You will think saying, अच्छा चलो मैंने CNBC पे देखा, I think I should go and buy say ITC. And that's your thought right now, that you should go and buy ITC. But then you will pick up your phone, talk to two of your friends saying, hey guys, do you think it makes sense? Should I go and buy ITC? Right? And in some time you guys would come back and conclude it makes sense, let's do it. Right? So all of these conversations today are offline. There's nothing which really qualifies most of the advices, most of the conversations which are happening. Right? There's not a single tech platform out there which helps people look at relevant content information to take investment decisions. Right? which
Correct.
we have now created. You will see educators, you will see influencers, you will see fund managers, all of these guys who are out there sharing their knowledge, strategy, how to invest, how to do fundamental analysis, how to do technical analysis, how to actually go and make investment decisions.
Right.
Right. And most importantly, they're not just telling about this, they're actually opening up their portfolios on StockGro. So you can see how someone's portfolio is behaving, what is the kind of return they are generating. So no one can bluff, right? It has to be genuine. So if you come and tell me I made 20% return last month, I'll actually come and ask you, show me your StockGro portfolio, what it looks like. Right? And that's where we are creating genuine people, genuine trades that you can follow and learn from.
I think that is great. I think that is a great asset to anyone. And after you said that India is actually doing really well in fintechs, I feel that is really great. I'm really feeling proud of it because how we really started off, it was that the same thing that the financial education in our country is really, really poor, as you said. So we also worked around that only. Now we have this particular place of Goela School of Finance where people can learn few things. We have some YouTube channels and all. Anyways, that is great. But tell me one thing, जैसे you've created a full product, आपने पूरा product ही इसमें create कर दिया, जो tech है, मतलब it needs development, it needs coding, and sometimes I also think that we should come up with some kind of thing. But मेरे को लगता है कि I am not from a tech background, मैं developer हूँ ही नहीं. So how do I go about it? Or maybe if anyone else is there from a complete finance background, no development background, how should he start off?
Interesting. So I just see I've been a tech investor, or at least I can claim to be a tech investor. But investing in tech is very different from building a tech. It's a completely different story altogether. And I realized how difficult this is when actually I took a stab at it. Like how much hard work goes into building these products. And next time when I see a glitch on any of the product, I actually don't complain anymore. Ki yaar, wo acha nahi hai. Right? But it's ascribing to this thought. Most of the folks around me, including most of the investors, right, they did not believe that I would be able to pull it off. They liked the concept, they liked the idea, they said this would make sense. But because I don't come from tech or say product background, it was very unlikely for me to actually be able to build this out. Right. The thought around it is, you have to first go back and think of it like this. When someone is building the tech, he's coding a logic, right? So he's basically writing how, when someone clicks here, how the logic has to work, right? As long as you are able to think in your mind the logic around the product, right? As long as you are able to envision what the product would look like, the screens would look like, एक user journey कैसी होगी, after that you can start putting it together. It's a lot of work. It's painstaking process. But once you know how your product has to look, feel, and what the logic should be, then you can put this around. That's not a problem after that.
So how do you manage your team? I mean, see, just generally, I'll tell you my perspective that I know something, and if I know that, then I can easily manage my team accordingly because I know the product. I know what they're doing. But if you don't have much knowledge in one area, then how are you able to actually manage the team so that everything is doing well and without any hiccups as such?
See, I think entrepreneurs have one very good quality. They know how to live with uncertainties.
Right.
And from managing a team, or from that perspective, what you have to do with most of the people is you have to learn to inspire them, right? It's your energy, your excitement, your journey that is going to inspire all of the folks in your team, saying isko aisa banate hain, aisa dikhna chahiye, this is the kind of users we are going to get. Every day is a tough day, especially when you're building a startup. But then every day you would have accomplished something. आज हमने कुछ ऐसा नया किया which we did not do last week, right? Today we have rolled out a feature which we didn't even expect to do it in, say, a quarter, a month, or whatever time period. But that fun, excitement, energy has to come from the founder, who will keep inspiring his team, saying, this is what we are doing, this is an accomplishment, this is something which people have not done earlier.
That's a really good point, and honestly I also keep that in mind because I'm also learning throughout only. So Ajay, you have, of course, you've worked everywhere. So any specific experience or any specific learning or story you want to share ki you have gone through it, and I think maybe you think that this could actually help other people who maybe want to do what you're actually doing right now?
So, one most important thing, Aditya, is do things that you want to do with complete conviction, right? Um, and I've always explained this to my folks, my cousins, friends, whoever I meet, and when they're asking about, say, how to build startups, how to build businesses, and even in say in your education, in your say career, try and pursue excellence. This is the most important part. People have a habit of pursuing capital or money instead of pursuing excellence, right? Till date, and I'm being super honest, till date in any of my jobs, I've never ever negotiated salaries. मैंने कभी पूछा भी नहीं कि आप salary क्या pay करोगे, right? And I go in that business, I go in that office with so much fascination, saying, you know, I will get to do what I want to do when I'm taking up a job, right? I'm always fascinated seeing ये तो मुझे करना है. I have to do this in life, right? And I'm getting paid to do that. I can't be more grateful than this. Saying, say for an example, you love to do podcast, Aditya, and someone is paying you to do this, right? It
Correct.
can't get better than this.
Clearly.
For most of the folks, it's the other way around, saying मुझे पैसे कितने मिलेंगे ये काम करने के. Then it's a drag, right? Then it's you're saying I'm giving you my hours and how much compensation are you gonna pay me? I'm not laboring. That's the first thought that you have to have in your mind, that I'm not laboring in a business. I'm not laboring in a job. And then if you are excelling in your role, whatever you are doing, people will recognize it. I have seen like my salaries go up 3 times, 4 times, simply because I love what I'm doing. I have so much of energy around it. I have so much of excitement around it. uh, and the moment you stop asking for salary, people will come back and give you the money that you should be deserving or you deserve to get.
Agreed. I think that is a very good point. That if you do what you like, so ultimately you'll do good things only. When it's not a drag, as you said.
I would always go back and compare myself not with others, कौन क्या कर रहा है और कैसे कर रहा है, because it's a wrong comparison, right? Everyone has a different starting point in life. My comparison is always with myself, saying 2 years back, where was I, right? What have I learned? How have I grown personally? मैंने कुछ अच्छे काम किए होंगे, कुछ बुरे काम किए होंगे, but मैंने सीखा क्या है?
Correct.
And correct, your bank balance is just a part of reflecting back where you are, but it's not everything around it. That's very important. People have to understand this. Yeah, I think this has changed in the new generation, in the culture. Everyone starts comparing bank balances. Everyone starts comparing the brands that you are wearing. It actually does not matter. It's not you. It's basically you are trying to prove yourself to be someone else. It's not even required.
Correct. But Ajay, tell me one thing, and this might be a little practical question. That I'm sure in your journey, so everyone has a different journey, as you said, and probably there might be some people who went further ahead of you, right? So, I mean, how it is, of course, it's not an easy thing to handle, right? It's clearly not an easy thing to handle. So in that situation, what would you recommend to other people? Because right now there's such a pressure that at early age, early 20s, you have to have a startup. People are going for 30 under 30, and there's a pressure for every, you can say, college student only, that people are doing this. So what would you recommend them this? That I know that you've said this, but again, some more things which you think actually might help them.
Don't get into a rat race. I'm telling you what I did, right? So post ISB, when I came out, I had one of the better offers out there when I came out of the campus. And interestingly, I did not want to pursue it. So I did not want to leave India. I decided I don't want to shift to US. I'll probably not take up this job. My friends were really angry with me, saying, you took away an opportunity. Can you please call back the company and ask them to interview me? But my whole idea was that I wanted to build businesses out here. And to do that, what do I do next? Interestingly, I had no knowledge of banking sector. I don't come from banking sector. I did tech and manufacturing, right?
Right.
And I wanted to get into investment banking. So all I did was I read everything about it, everything that I could, because that's all that you can do when you're pursuing your MBA. And then I started knocking some of the investment banks here. Most of them said, your background is not relevant. uh, I would have given up because, and you would see a lot of other guys who are now getting into investment banking, your friends, your peers who have given those interviews. And then I decided to pick those two, three banks who I thought would work for the kind of background I'm bringing, who would appreciate the kind of knowledge that I bring on the table.
Mm.
Salary was almost one third, one fourth of what anyone would have got. It was a very difficult decision, but for me, it was my launch pad. And I decided to go with that, saying I will compensate for all of this when I move up, but I need to learn banking first. I need to learn investment banking first. मुझे वो सीखना ज़रूरी है, and then I'll figure the rest of the things out. So that's how it started. Because I was doing it right, I immediately moved on the other side of the table. So from investment banking to a venture capital. And all that I had to basically exhibit was my business finesse, not just my finesse around numbers, but more about कि अगर एक business बनाना है वो कैसे बनना चाहिए. And the moment you start putting those inputs across to founders and the funds, they would say, come on the other side of the table and help us out.
Correct. I think I agree with you. This is a great point for sure. So tell me, what are your thoughts on financial education, which we started on the first point in the first few questions? Financial education in India, and do you think our generation, at least let's say the current generation, is prepared?
All they need.
Not at all. Not at all. Right? So think of this. Today our education system and the way it is built, it makes everyone job ready, right? It does not make you investment ready. It does not even teach you basic life skills, right? Say for an
Right.
example, and I'm going to digress a little, right? Say for an example, you are facing some kind of a, say, disease. You would not even know what medicines to be taken. You would not even know
Right.
about the chemical names, right? There are a lot of things that we should learn for our practical living which are not taught in our schools and colleges. All that they're doing is you go through this course. अगर आप CFA करोगे आपको ये जॉब मिल जाएगी. अगर आप CA करोगे you will get, dude, I'm not there to get a job, right? I'm there to get some education. That mindset has to change, and the education
Right.
system has to stop making people job ready. They have to start making people life ready. That is important,
Mm.
right? When it comes to investment, our families, our culture, right, and it applies to me, you, and almost everyone who's listening to this, uh, they all have learned how to save money. So my dad would have taught me पैसे कैसे बचाने चाहिए, खर्च नहीं करने,
Right.
right? Our culture teaches us this very well. No one, there's no formal system which actually teaches us how to invest money. How do you grow your capital? वो पैसे कहाँ जाने चाहिए, कहाँ use करने चाहिए? None of us know it, right? Either the money goes in savings account or fixed deposit, which is not investment, it is preservation of your capital, right?
Right.
Or they are sitting in real estate and gold, which are both illiquid assets.
And especially for young people, they real estate and gold, though, of course it's not real estate is at least not an option for them as of now. REITs, I think it's not pretty much very available in India. I think the idea is starting up. I feel probably in the next few years we should be coming up with them. But yeah, I think that is nice. So one more thing, I read about your bio and I spoke to your team, researched a little, and I found out that 2008 was probably not a very good year for you. Am I correct that way? Right. So I saw that you had incurred a loss of upwards of 80 lakhs that particular year. So tell us, how did that happen?
So Aditya, उस समय क्या था? I was running my own business, right? And all that I would start saving, I would come back and put that in markets. So for me, 6-7% of fixed deposit returns were not attractive. It did not make sense. In markets would give you much higher and better returns. So
Right.
all I was doing was, market was on a bull run at that point of time, right? तो जिस almost everyone in my friend circle, वो सुबह हम we would go back, call up each other saying आज क्या खरीदना है, right? So while you go through rest of the day, going through your business, rest of the operations, you would always go online, probably go and buy some stock, some future, some option. And interestingly, everything was giving us good return, right? So no
Right.
one was
Right.
putting their mind in it.
Correct.
I think उस समय the race was who can get the highest return. It was not about who can get a return.
Right.
Markets suddenly correct and they crashed. And that's when I realized that I don't understand stock markets. I believed I do, but I actually did not know much about the markets. I did not know how the fundamentals work, right? Now, most of the people by that point of time, if they actually face such losses, they would just shut themselves out of stock market and say, "यार अब मैं कुछ नहीं करने वाला हूँ इसमें." Right? There's a inherent evil out there. मैं तो वापस नहीं जा रहा हूँ. I also did that. I shied away for a couple of weeks, but I was determined to recover back my losses back from the market and not from anywhere else. Right? So till now I was trading on say stock tips, किसी ने कुछ समझाया, किसी ने कुछ बोला, but now I wanted to learn how market works. What are the fundamentals of market? Global markets, Indian markets, कैसे काम करते हैं, right? How do you tame the bull and chain the bear? This was important. And I also realized, and this is important, there are a ton of people who have made money when the market crashes.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
These are the guys who know how to short the market. They know how to time the market right, how to predict these, say whenever the market is going to fall. And there are so many documentaries made on these people, and I wanted to be one of these guys saying, if I get one crash right in next 5 years, I'm done
True,
for life.
that's
To
true.
get that right. So for that, I had to get into formal education. So I joined CFA not with the purpose कि CFA join करने से मुझे I'll get a degree and a job, but I wanted to figure out how stock market works. How do people pick stocks? How do people do their investments? And that's how I started.
So did ultimately CFA help you in that regards?
It did, right? So it made me understand सब लोग कैसे सोच रहे हैं. There is some structure around it, right? The structure is not Aditya coming and telling me आज ITC खरीद लेते हैं, right? But it's a lot more structure. Market caps कैसे build होते हैं, multiples कैसे decide होते हैं, balance sheet, P&L. How are you? So historical numbers are there, but right? How are you projecting things? So there's some structure which has been put around it, which helps you put your thoughts, put your predictions, figure out things how others are doing it, right? It's very helpful. And actually, when I joined ISB, when I was in my MBA course, for the first 4 months, it was a cakewalk for me because I had done my CFA level 1, level 2. Everything that I learned there was exactly what they were teaching out here. So it became much easier for me.
Nice. So what were the differences between ISB and CFA from your perspective?
आप CFA घर में अकेले बैठ के पढ़ रहे होते हो.
Correct.
Correct.
There's no interaction.
Right.
When you go to B school, and B school is less, I wouldn't say less, it's beyond just studying. It's actually building that network with people who are gonna help you for the rest of your life. You have to build that friend circle out there जो आपके साथ next 20 years of your professional career, they're gonna be with you, they're gonna help you. You are gonna help these guys. That's what you're out there.
So before we end this podcast, this is the last question. I want you to recommend 3 things or 3 any specific things which a startup fintech founder or a young guy who has some ideas, who wants to implement it, or who's trying to, let's say, come out of his boring old job, which you said that he's just working for money, and do something which he really wants to do. So any 3 things which you would recommend?
Sure. So Aditya, first, and I think the most important part is to embrace failure. It is okay to fail, right? आज के 10 साल पहले it was a taboo. The society wouldn't let you live with it. But now it is okay, right? You tried something, it did not work, you failed, you can get onto something else after that. I would say the only guys who never fail are the ones who have never made an attempt, right? Do not live a life of regret. Could have, should have, would have. It's not going to help you in life. If you want to do something, worst case scenario, you would have probably lost 1 year's salary. As it is, when you die, you're not going to take that money with you. Make an attempt. If you are really passionate about something, go and do it. I'll give you an example. Think of it like this. Have you ever proposed to a girl?
Yes.
Okay. So if you do not propose to her, you have no idea whether she would say a yes or a no, right? And your status quo is always going to stay no. So the best thing that can actually happen to you is you go and propose to her.
Correct.
Right?
Makes sense.
Startup is exactly like that. It's your girlfriend. right? If you don't make an attempt to start building this, you would never build this out.
Wow, I think this is a great line, and probably I'll use it in many more places in future. The conversation we've had, I'm sure that it'll benefit a lot of people out there who would probably be watching or listening to this particular podcast. So thank you so much, Ajay. Thank you so much for sparing your time and being with us for this time.
Thank you, Aditya. It was an absolute pleasure to be here, and look forward to many more conversations.
Definitely, Ajay. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye.